Prynhawn da, a croeso, good afternoon and welcome to the second annual general meeting of Digital Health and Care Wales. Today's meeting is held slightly later in the year than normal due to an increased audit period of the accounts and annual report, and that's been the same across the whole of NHS Wales. The AGM today relates to the DHCW annual report and accounts for 2022-2023, and we're going to aim to, well, we will finish today's AGM by 5 p.m. We've had apologies from Sam Hall, who's unavoidably unable to attend us, and I know, Ruth, you are joining us somewhere on the road, so if we do happen to lose you for any reason, we understand why, but I'm glad you could make it. We're holding today's AGM virtually and broadcasting the meeting live, as is the practice with our public board meetings, and provide anyone with internet access the opportunity to observe in real time. However, you can catch up on this AGM at the end of the meeting by following the link on our websites to a recording of the meeting. Simultaneous translation arrangements are in place, allowing the board members to engage in either English or Welsh. And to do that, it's the usual practice at the bottom of the middle of the screen, in the middle, roughly, hover over the globe and choose Hear Translation if you wish to hear a English translation of anyone speaking through the medium of Welsh. We've got a question and answer session planned at the end of the presentations. All questions preferably submitted in advance. Those that have been submitted in advance will of course be answered. If you wish to ask a question, then please do so through the meeting using the Q&A function, and we will get through as many as possible. Any that are submitted before the end of the meeting and we don't get through, we will answer within 14 days, both to the person who raised the question, if they indicate who they are, and they will also, of course, be posted on our website, the answers of any questions we didn't manage to get through within the meeting time. I'd like to thank all board members for their contribution to the work of the board through the year, and the unwavering commitment they've given to the work of the board. It's been a great privilege again to be chair of DHCW for the last year, and look forward to hearing about all the great work that has happened during that period. DHCW just wouldn't be here and just wouldn't be doing the work it's doing without the commitment, hard work and dedication of our people. So my sincere thanks go to all of you who work for DHCW, personally, and I'm sure on behalf of every member of the board. Everyone makes a massive contribution to the delivery of quality digital healthcare services for the people of Wales. And though often we might not be described as the front line certainly couldn't do the work they do without the work all you do. In many senses, the staff of DHCW are amongst that group of people as we describe as the unsung heroes and heroines of the NHS. So my congratulations and appreciation go to all of you. In the past 12 months, our staff numbers have now grown to 1,113 permanent members of staff. So hands up the 1,113th person who joined us. And as chair, I've been really impressed with the culture and work ethic of our staff, of our people. Given everything that's going on around us at the moment, and so much of it is giving us many challenges in our second year of operation, I'm very pleased and proud of our achievements and the way that we've come through and responded to coming out of the pandemic, the cost of living crisis, and the ever-increasing cyber threats to NHS Wales. This year hasn't been without its challenges. We've had to prioritise activities and recruit staff to ensure that we've had the capacity to continue our active work on delivering programmes, including a significant number of new programmes that we've inherited that have been transferred to us from other organisations on the basis of it being much more appropriate for us to be taking those programmes forward into the future, given the digital nature of the work that they do. It is with pride that I can report that our digital services have been absolutely key to the safe delivery of care for people across Wales. Before we start with the formal business of today's annual general meeting, there are 3 new members of the board. There are actually 4, but Sam Hall obviously has given her apologies. But there are 3 members of the current board who've joined since the last annual general meeting, and I think it would be nice for them to introduce themselves briefly, as they weren't able to do so, obviously, at the last annual general meeting. First, can I ask Marilyn Bryan-Jones, who's joined us as an independent member in late summer last year. Marilyn, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hello, my name is Marilyn Bryan-Jones. I'm an independent member with Digital Healthcare Wales. My background is in diversity, equality and inclusion. I'm really passionate about making sure that everybody gets an equal right really to opportunities. I'm really pleased to be part of the agenda within Digital Healthcare Wales to move things on and to try to make sure that we continually meet people's needs and work in partnership with other organisations and communities to further our work and to support people with the digital platform to get the services they want over time. So thank you very much. Diolch yn fawr.
Thank you, Marilyn. And Alistair Class-Neil.
Thank you, Simon. I'm Alistair Class-Neil. I spent 10 years as a chief executive in 2 multinationals before coming to my senses and joining the public sector, where I became chief executive of 3 different local authorities over the next 19 years. And I spent 1 year in Downing Street leading capability reviews of 2 government departments. But I'm delighted to now be part of a brilliant team at DHCW who are doing the most incredibly important work. And I hope I can bring another useful, constructive perspective to that work.
Thank you, Alistair. And then finally, Sam Lloyd.
Thank you, Simon. I'm Sam Lloyd. I joined recently as Exec Director of Operations. I've got around 20 years of experience in healthcare technology, most recently as Head of Technology in Public Health England. I'm really excited about the opportunities that there are for digital in health to really sort of change the game, I think, and DHCW is really well placed to do that. My portfolio consists of all of our operational capabilities, really, so around software development and engineering, product support, cybersecurity, service management, platform support, and technologies such as data centers, cloud, and our Microsoft 365 offering. Thank you.
Thank you, Sam. As I mentioned, who can't be here today, Sam Hall is our Director of Primary Community and Mental Health Digital Services. And one of the, I think, significant events through the year that we're talking about really is achieving a full board, both executive and independent member, and that has significantly helped the work of the board. And I know it's significantly helped Helen in her ability to discharge the duties of a chief executive officer rather than a chief executive officer and a number of executive directors as well. Which brings me neatly to Helen Thomas, our chief executive, and I'm now going to hand over to her to provide a brief overview of our 2022-2023 annual report. Helen, over to you.
Diolch. Thank you, Chair. Bear with me a sec. I've lost my window. So yeah, I'm delighted to bring the 22-23 Digital Health and Care Annual Report and Accounts to the AGM, reflecting on our achievements and challenges through 22-23, and of course to look ahead. The annual report's been published as a single unified document, and it's in the AGM papers, and it's also, of course, available on our website for you to access. And it includes the performance report, the accountability report, and the financial statements. And I'm really proud that as the National Digital Organisation for the NHS in Wales, we're the first NHS Wales organisation to publish our annual report in HTML format to make it more accessible for everyone. So I'd remind the board that the annual report and accounts as a whole must be fair, balanced and understandable. And as accountable officer, I take personal responsibility for this, and the judgments required for determining that it is fair, balanced and understandable. So I'd like to extend my thanks to all colleagues across the organisation for all their hard work over the past year, and a special thank you to the staff involved in the delivery of the annual report and accounts. So thank you, Chair. I'll hand back to you to kick us off into the showcase and the look forward.
Thank you, Helen. Today we're going to give you an overview of who we are and what we do, as well as to share the progress and achievements of 2022-23 as a statutory organisation. Bearing in mind it's still only our second year as a Special Health Authority, as a statutory organisation. We'll also talk about our people, our financial position, our services, our plans for the future. I'll now hand back to Helen, and I know Helen's going to introduce, or they may introduce each other, a number of members of the executive team to do what I've just described in the context of their particular areas of speciality. So Helen, back to you.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. So I'm just going to talk through a couple of slides that really describes who we are as an organisation and what it is we're here to do. So if we can move on to the next slide. So just as a diagram really to demonstrate that we are part of the NHS Wales family, one of the 12 statutory organisations. So we are one of 2 special health authorities in NHS Wales set up to deliver national services, and in our case that's data, digital and technology services that support our partner organisations who are delivering frontline care. We do that through partnership, and we'll talk a bit more about that as we work through the slides. And of course, we are accountable to Welsh Government. So if we can move on. So our vision is to provide world-leading digital services, empowering people to live healthier lives. It's a really bold ambition for the organisation, and it's one that we take really seriously and we really believe in. We've got 5 missions that really demonstrate how we believe that we can deliver those world-leading digital services. So the first is about providing a platform for enabling that digital transformation, and that's really about how we lay the foundations for our whole architecture, the standards and the frameworks that we need in place to ensure that we've got the basis for safe and secure sharing and use of data and services across the NHS. And of course, we really want to ensure that everything we do, we deliver to the highest quality, so that we are delivering kind of a continuously improving product that is available and accessible to support health and care processes out there. So that's our second mission. Our third is about the expansion of the digital record and improving healthcare through digital. And that's about delivering the patient-centric view of the digital record. And that's both to clinicians and now more so through to patients through the NHS Wales app. So really about how we are improving that information and making it available and accessible to support those pathways of care. And all of that, the above there, generates data, and it's data that we want to make sure is used to drive value and improve outcomes out there, so that we deliver the insights and we support innovation, so that we are supporting improved outcomes for the population of Wales. And we do all of that in an open and transparent way, being a trusted strategic partner as part of the NHS and our wider service delivery partners across the health and care sector. So delivering the highest quality, being an inclusive and ambitious employer of choice. So that kind of they're 5 fairly bold missions for us, but hopefully that describes exactly what it is we're here to do. And the rest of the slides, I think, will give you a bit more insight into what that means in terms of the achievements that we've had this year and what we're doing for the year that we're in currently and going forward. So hopefully that sets that out, and I will now hand over to Sarah Jane Taylor, our Director of People and Organisational Development.
Thank you, Helen. And just to continue with that, really, I think it's been a very people-centric year, and we've definitely put people and our values at the heart of everything we've done, really. So just to recap, we developed and had signed off the People and OD strategy in September last year. And there was a number of key themes and deliverables as part of that. It was a 3-year strategy, and we've made really good inroads in year 1. and achieved everything that we set out to, which was really great. So just a few highlights really. In terms of our growth, we've grown definitely as an organisation, and that doesn't just happen by accident. So there's a lot of work behind the scenes in terms of all of the teams, looking at recruitment and attraction, joining together, understanding who we need and when we need people. So that's been a really keen piece of work to attract the right people, to get the right talent, to develop people, and to make sure that we keep them. Obviously we don't want to get good people in and then they leave. So in terms of our turnover, it's really low, which is great. And we do lots of surveys and pulse checks and away days and events with staff. And the feeling very much is through the various networks that are out there that it is a good place to work. People are attracted to join us. They want to stay with us. They feel developed. And, it's a very positive and welcoming environment, and, given some interesting work to do as our portfolio displays. So our gender profile hasn't moved greatly, but we've had lots more senior people come in at females, which has been great. So a number of senior people, which is really sort of, the numbers don't look different, but actually in terms of the profile and the grading and what people are doing and having an impact on the organisation, that's been really tremendous over the last year. We've got a really low absence rate, which is great, but we don't rest on our laurels. We work very closely with the health and wellbeing, my team and people in OD, and across the whole organisation, with particular regard to the directorate managers. We really look at areas that we need to focus on, do interventions, put really good support enablers in place. We do 10 talks, we do events, we do lots of stuff online to help people, and also making sure as well that managers, because we're working hybrid and not coming into the office every single day, people do wellbeing checks. We look after each other, we look after our teams, and that's been really supportive. So that's been a really tremendous thing that's been achieved over the last year, and people are saying that is happening and it is really helpful, which is great. But we still do value our face-to-face time together in team events and so forth, and there's been a number of those over the last year across all the teams, and that's been very, very well received. Just a final piece on this one, working with trade unions and academic partners. We're working really hard actually with the education sector, schools, colleges and universities, with our apprenticeships, with our graduates, and people just knowing about us and knowing that we have opportunities, and supporting what career aspirations they have, and also having a look at some of the training courses, development and graduate programs and master's degrees as well. So there's been a lot of focus in that area, which has been great. And again, working with Andrew, who's obviously the trade union member on the board, and he's obviously the leader of the Joint Trade Union Group, and his colleagues, really good, positive working with those. And Helen will chair 1 month and Andrew will chair the next. So again, it's really supported. All the directors for different reasons have come to the trade union meeting over the year, and actually, given updates and information exchange for the unions to understand and know about, and also to input and to revise if necessary, to say, well, could we have a look at that slightly differently? So it's been a really good joint piece of working, and yeah, that works very well. Can I just have the next slide, please? Okay, so as part of the People in OD strategy, the Strategic Equality Plan was developed and presented to board last March and went live in April. So that's been 6 months in the making now in terms of looking at the deliverables. And I'm pleased to say that everything that is scheduled for delivery in Q1 and Q2 has been delivered. And that's been tremendous. And that's been a really great piece of work, really. We've got a new EDI network of diverse staff members, all supporting various protected characteristics. Indeed, they're all covered off. And that's been absolutely tremendous as well in terms of looking at how we devise surveys, what communications we put out, what language we use, and really sort of giving us some food for thought about things that don't work for people. And I've certainly learned things. I thought I knew lots of things, but actually you learn things all the time, and the sharing of stories. And some of these have been quite hard to listen to, that experiences people have had in previous careers as well, and how they've come into our organisation, and they do feel that it really is valuing and supportive to the diverse workforce that we've got. Another thing that we've done is obviously look at our strategic plan and our workforce planning, and that's been a keen focus. So looking at who we need, when we need people, what skill set, how do we redevelop people in the organisation for jobs for the future, but where the skills gaps are, and that's given us, that was a huge piece of work, and it's been quite an exciting piece of work, but a lot of actions that have come out of that, and we will be launching this year's in November for 24-25. So it's an ongoing thing. It's not something that happens every 10 years. So that's been quite tremendous. Leadership and talent, lots of positive things in this arena. We've worked with the King's Fund and Silver Maple on talent and leadership. We've had that through the board development, through the executives, through the senior leaders 8Cs and above, the talent programme for 6s to 8Bs. And Chris Darling, the board secretary, and I are working on the 5s, 4s and 3s programme, which will go live in the final quarter of this year. So it's been produced for everybody really, and I think that's been a really great piece of work that's moved forward. We've had some information as well on the previous session at the board meeting about the recognition awards, and I would just like to say there's lots of things that go on in that space, winning the best place to work in IT, and a number of different things that individuals and teams have received over the last year, which have been tremendous. And for me, as the Director of People and OD, that's really helped me actually tremendously. It's not just about the shiny award, which is all fabulous, but it's about attracting people to come into our organisation, celebrating our organisation as a good place to work and develop your careers and stay with us and do some terrific work in terms of our deliverables. So that's been amazing. The hybrid working as well, just to say that was also another key theme of our work programme as part of the People and OD strategy. That's been very well received. We've done a number of audits and surveys on that, and the recent external audit that went forward has given us substantial assurance. I think a number of things that we've put in, such as the wellbeing checks and a number of things I think that we've done, perhaps more so than others actually, have really actually helped people. And I think people are enjoying working in a different way, but they're doing so and saying it's actually really helping performance and delivery and timescale. So hopefully that's a win-win as we move forward. And just a final note really about the British Standard for Valuing People and Diversity. It's a really tough one to get. We've been re-awarded that, and the team have worked tremendously hard with everyone across the organisation to provide the evidence and to support the audit and the standards inspection. So again, another great award for the organisation, and lots of evidence to give them, and delighted to receive that, and great for everyone that works in the organisation that we've got that. So thank you, and I will pass over now to Chris Darling. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Sarah Jane. Yeah, I'm Chris Darling, Board Secretary at Digital Health and Care Wales. I think the key thing to point out, as the Chair alluded to earlier from this slide, from a board perspective, is that for the first time since our establishment, we are a full complement of board members, both executive members and independent members. And as such, we commenced a full programme of board development earlier this year that we're starting to come to the conclusion of now. If we move on to the next slide, the board continues to oversee the strategic direction of DHCW. It shapes the culture and ensures accountability and assurance. And this assurance is exercised in large part through the committees of the board. So the Digital Governance and Safety Committee, which is chaired by our independent member Owen Gardner, this oversees and provides assurance on areas such as information governance, information services, research and development, clinical informatics, organisational learning, and cyber security. Our Audit and Assurance Committee, chaired by Marion Wynne-Jones, our independent member, oversees and provides assurance on areas of audit, counter-fraud, financial governance and procurement, and corporate governance, as well as other areas. And our chair, Simon, chairs the Remuneration and Terms of Service Committee, looking at senior team members' remuneration in terms of service and the executive team's objectives. The board also receives routine feedback from the local partnership forum to provide a staff voice, and this is led by our associate board member for trade unions, Andrew Fletcher. And if we move on to the next slide, we'll just see that we've had external regulator feedback from Audit Wales and from our internal audit programme, and this is continued to shape DHCW in our second year of operation through their external assessment and feedback. And I'm pleased to say that the Audit Wales structured assessment feedback was largely positive during the 2022-23 year. And it stated that DHCW is embedding good governance arrangements. And this is supported by a number of substantial assurance internal audit reports, including into corporate governance and risk management, and supported by the overall head of internal audit opinion for 2022-23. So I'll hand over now to Claire Osmondson-Little, our Exec Director of Finance and Deputy Chief Exec.
Diolch. Chris, prynawn da, good afternoon. I'm going to talk you through a couple of slides which will demonstrate that DHCW has confidently delivered its statutory financial requirements for this financial year. This graph on the left-hand side shows you that the statutory duties, and the ones on the right shows you the administrative targets that we are set. The most important part of those is having a good financial plan, and our annual plan was approved by Welsh Government, and we achieved, that is our second financial duty. That plan lays out our capital and revenue deliverables, and I'm happy to say that we delivered within the funding requirements for both capital and revenue in 2022-23. These are all summarised in our statutory accounts, and if you don't want to take our word for it, you can see that the Welsh Audit Office have also undertaken a detailed assessment and checks to ensure you that these accounts represent a true and fair picture of our activities within the year. I'd also like to take the opportunity to thank the Audit Committee and its participants, in particular the Welsh Audit Office, the Internal Audit, the Counter Fraud team, who have all contributed to that true and fair view. On the right-hand side, we talk about our administration requirements and targets. So the public sector pay requirement ensures us to pay our invoices within 30 days. And as you can see, DHCW achieved 98% during 2022-23. We also were efficient in the way that we allocated and used our cash. We have to ensure that our transactions are within a target of 2 million, and we achieved a year-end balance of 1.1 million. So let's move on to the next slide, which will really help demonstrate where our funding comes from and how we've spent it. This graph shows on the left the total income that has come that DHCW receives. That totaled for 2022-23 £151 million. Predominantly that comes directly from Welsh Government, 105 million. We also have income from our health boards and trusts, and that totaled 44.2 million. And then we have some minor income also from other nations, including Northern Ireland. We then spend that income and allocate those income into three key areas, most of which is what we would define as our core services. Most of those, 83 million short, is the core services. Now, what is core services? So core services really include everything from our board and finance executive, our corporate services, but more importantly, our data and security, and equally our systems and technology. So that would include things like our data centres, our primary care teams, networks, and also within that is our strategy team. We also have a direct allocation into our primary care, and that supports GPs across Wales. We have what's known as a capital charge or depreciation charge. And then finally, we spend a small sum of money on our facilities. So those are really predominantly our core allocation services. We also spend a sum on development. And for 2022-23, that equated to 31.5 million. And within that, there were a number of programmes and projects across Wales supporting the health and care services. Notably, though, the big ones within that included the National Data Resource, the NHS app, the digital transformations for medicine management, and also the community care information systems, amongst others. And finally, our COVID-19 response continued during 2022-23. That was for both the track and trace system and the vaccine. So as you can see, DHCW has quite a significant number of activities across both core, digital, development and also to support the COVID activities. Not only did we spend money, we saved money. So during the year, we had a core, I'll just find my numbers here. We saved in total £2.4 million, of which 1.3 million has a recurrent benefit. So we do have a small gap, which means that we have a slight deficit as we went into this year, which obviously we're working from. Finally, for those financial people amongst the audience, it's interesting to know we've got a net asset value of 32.9 million. And notably for DHEW, unlike other organisations within Wales, we have the highest value of intangible assets, reflecting the amount of software and licenses the organisation develops and uses on its asset base. So I hope that's given you an understanding of what we do in terms of scale and scope from a financial perspective. We do also have, we're working on creating the value of all of these, but I'm sure as I hand over to my colleague, Sam Lloyd, the operations director, he will bring that more to life. So I'll hand you across to Sam Lloyd.
Thank you, Claire. We recognise the critical role that our services play in enabling the delivery of effective care across Wales. So in the year, we've continued our strong focus on increasing their performance and stability. The HCW runs, maintains and improves 103 operational services on behalf of NHS Wales. Across these services, we've sustained an annual availability of 99.977%, which I'm personally really pleased with and compares very favourably to industry standards. Of course, we need to provide timely and effective support for these services, and in 22-23, our service desk resolved 220,000 support tickets from our partners and customers. NHS Wales has made a significant investment in the Microsoft 365 suite of products to drive effective collaboration across the system, and DHCW has established a centre of excellence to help our partners derive maximum value from this. You could have the next slide, please. Cybersecurity continues to be a key focus for us. We recognise the increasing prevalence of cybercrime, particularly targeting the health sector. In response, DHCW has developed a 3-year cyber improvement plan, which has been agreed by our board. We also host a cyber resilience unit commissioned by the Welsh Government to review and assist each of the operators of essential services across NHS Wales to evaluate their level of cybersecurity and resilience. This is based on the requirements of the NIS, or Network and Information Systems regulations. Our Microsoft 365 Centre of Excellence team reacted quickly to a cyber attack which affected the 111 GP out of hours service. Working with colleagues across the system under significant time pressure, the team were able to deliver a time-critical business continuity solution that helped mitigate the impact of the attack. Of course, all these outcomes have been made possible by the hard work and dedication of the operational teams across DHCW, and I would like to take this opportunity to thank them for their work. I'm now going to hand over to Rhidian Hurl, our Exec Medical Director. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and good afternoon, everyone. I started my career in Wales in 1989, and I've been delivering surgical services throughout that time, and the single record has been probably the most useful tool in the armoury that I've had to deliver care. A safe and secure trusted source of patient information, and the last 12 months have shown that our user base has now actually gone over 35,000 users, both in primary care and in secondary care, and also supporting acute services in our Welsh ambulance service. We've now gone over 50 million care documents that relate to individual patients, and have just gone over 250 million test results, meaning that someone like me can see an X-ray taken anywhere in Wales at any point when I'm delivering care to an individual, and the same with blood tests. The functionality allowing clinicians and healthcare professionals to read and write in the record, making that that information instantly available for wherever the patient presents. Some of the functionality that's improved in the last 12 months includes the electronic test requesting and results notification functionality, which is again making care safer and also improving the turnaround times of requested tests. One of the big highlights has been the move off a legacy system called Canis, which was responsible for helping cancer care across Wales. A dependency of about 1,800 users has now moved into the Welsh Clinical Portal, which means cancer care information is available to more users of the system, providing a more holistic care approach. We've also improved the content through collection of genetic results, which is a very big step, and we're making strides in both endoscopy and cardiology, getting those results to follow the patient along their pathway. We're passionate about user-centric design. We have a strong clinical informatist group of professionals within our organization, and we work closely with the clinical networks across the various specialties, including medicine and nursing, and we're now making good progress with our relationships with directors of therapies. And we have a business team that are going from strength to strength in terms of helping the change management, the often painful process of clinicians having to learn new things, getting onto new tools which help them do their job. And this is all part of our ambition to deliver high quality services. Next slide, please. As we know, primary care is an area under pressure. The workforce numbers are going down, the surgery numbers are going down, and the demand in the community is going up. We have an approach of commercial software blended with in-house software design, which is proving to deliver benefits to our GP colleagues. We provide the hardware across over 400 sites, and that's no mean feat. And our support services should be credited, because the digital dependency in primary care is something that they can't work without it. So some of the highlights: all electronic referrals for elective care are sent from primary care to secondary care, providing a shortening of the patient pathway for outpatients. And we've just been able to enable primary care electronic requesting for radiology, and the first requests have been tested end to end, again providing access to services for our GPs. Next slide, please. Choose Pharmacy is an award-winning product that's been delivered by us in collaboration with our trusted partners, providing local and accessible services. Some of the highlights across those 700 pharmacies include the ability of patients to access professional advice for common ailments. That can range from anything from chicken pox to the management of lice. Emergency medicines reconciliation, emergency medicine supply, the ability to get contraception at short notice, and the delivery of seasonal vaccines. Again, all these systems have been designed to improve the level at which our highly trained clinical staff can operate, delivering benefits in local communities. Next slide, please. And of course, another award-winning built by us in collaboration with our users is the Welsh Immunisation System, available, accessible across the whole of Wales, and was one of the reasons that we in Wales were able to achieve such high uptake and delivery of the vaccines during the pandemic. The COVID problem hasn't gone away. We've continued to improve the usability of the software, enabling us to capture some of the more complex data associated with delivery of vaccines. And ultimately, this is part of our ambition to deliver useful, usable and used systems for healthcare professionals and administrative staff across Wales. So I'll now hand over to Evan. Thank you very much.
Diolch yn fawr iawn, Rhydian. Fi sydd yn mynd olaf, dwi'n meddwl, felly wi jyst yn mynd i edrych yn ôl yn gyflym iawn. Chi wedi clywed gan fy nghyd gyfarwyddwyr am sawl peth yn arbennig ein pobl, yn gweithlu, sut i ni'n gweithio gyda rhanddeiliad ar draws NHS Cymru a thu hwnt. Yn perfformiad ariannol am y flwyddyn, hynny yw 22-23, bore yma yn ein cyfarfod cyhoeddus, os ydych chi wedi bod yn gwylio hwnnw hefyd, byddai chi wedi gweld ni'n trafod yr heriau sy'n yn gwynebu ni ar hyn o bryd, sy'n gyffredin ar draws y system iechyd a gofal yn genedlaethol, ac hefyd uchafbwyntiau o'n adroddiad blynyddol o ran cyflawniad ni am 22-23. Wi eisiau pwysleisio bod yna llawer iawn rhagor yn yr adroddiad ei hun, neu yn yr adroddiad blynyddol. Mae fe yn y pecyn ar gyfer yr AGM, byddai ni'n annog chi i ddarllen y ddogfen mwyn deall mwy am beth i ni'n gwneud a cyflawniad yn tîmoedd i gyd ar draws y sefydliad. Wi eisiau sôn am rhai o'r pethau sydd ddim mor amlwg yn yr adroddiad blynyddol, sydd yn ffocysu ar y cyflawniadau amlwg y llynedd, a maen nhw yn ffocysu ar buddsoddi yn ein seilwaith digidol ar pethau sydd mor bwysig i ni gallu cyflawni wrth i ni edrych mlaen tuag at y dyfodol. Ar y sgrin ar hyn o bryd, byddwch chi'n gallu gweld rhai enghreifftiau o hynny, sut i ni wedi cymryd cyfrifoldeb am y rhaglenni diagnostig cenedlaethol. I ni wedi bod yn brysur yn gwneud gwaith rhag-gynllunio ar y rhaglen mamolaeth digidol. Ond yn bennaf, wi eisiau sôn am dair o'r rhaglenni strategol mwyaf sydd gyda ni ar hyn o bryd. Mae'n fraint i fi'n bersonol i gael arwen ar y rhaglenni hynny, gweithio gyda y tîmoedd rhaglen a gyda rhanddeiliad ar draws y sefydliad, achos mae yna berthynas agos rhwng y rhaglenni a'r sefydliad yn amlwg, ond hefyd rhanddeiliad allanol i ar un newidiadau sylweddol iawn trwy walla'r adnoddau data a digidol sydd ar draws sydd ar gael yn NHS Cymru. So felly, y cyntaf yw y portffolio trawsnewid moddion digidol. Mae hwn yn gynllun anferth sawl haen gwahanol iddo. Bydd e'n galluogi ni symud i weithdrefn gyfan gwbl ddigidol ar gyfer presgripsiwn, ar gyfer rheoli moddion, ar draws bob rhan o'r system iechyd. Llynedd, oedd yna waith dwys iawn yn gosod y seilwaith masnachol a gosod fframwaith ar gyfer contractio, sefydlu perthynas agos gyda yn rhanddeiliad yn arbennig yn y maes gofal cychwynnol. Cynllunio'r adnodd data moddion bydd yn storio'r holl ddata sydd yn dod o'r system digidol hynny. A mae hwnna i gyd yn digwydd o dan yr wyneb fel petai, ond mae fe wedi galluogi ni a partneriad i gyflawni eleni yn y misoedd diwethaf. Felly mae sawl bwrdd iechyd naill ai wedi neu yn y broses o bwrcasu o'r fframweithiau sydd wedi gosod y llynedd. A ni newydd gychwyn ar prawf technegol llwyddiannus o drosglwyddo presgripsiwn o surgery doctor i fferyllydd am y tro cyntaf yng Nghymru. Mae hwnna'n gam bwysig iawn i ni medru profi bod ni'n gallu gwneud hynny cyn bod ni'n ehangu a lledaenu hynny ar raddfa ar draws Cymru. Os awn ni i'r sleid nesaf. Next slide, please. Yn ail, mae app Gwasanaeth Iechyd Genedlaethol Cymru, so app Gig Cymru. Llynedd, oedd llynedd yn hynny beth sydd yn yr adroddiad blynyddol. Y brif bwyslais oedd datblygu'r meddalwedd a gweithio gyda tua 800 o ddefnyddwyr yn agos iawn trwy private beta, ni'n galw fe, er mwyn cael adborth oddi wrthyn nhw a cyd-gynllunio yr app gyda nhw. Gymrodd hwnna ni tan diwedd mis Mawrth, felly cyfnod llynedd. A wedyn dechrau mis Ebrill, cafodd yr app i lansio ar yr App Stores, Apple ac Android, fel bod e'n rhydd i unrhyw un i lawrlwythio, bod e'n dal i fod mewn public beta, hynny yw ni'n rhoi, mae'n adnoddau newydd yn dal i cael ei adeiladu mas arnyn nhw. Ac yn arbennig, yn ddiweddar iawn, i ni wedi cwblhau profion technegol eto, er mwyn sicrhau bod ni'n medru cysylltu yn surgeries a'r systemau sy'n cael ei defnyddio mewn surgeries yng Nghymru gyda'r app. Oedd hwnna wedi profi yn brawf chwyddiannus trwy mis Gorffennaf a mis Awst, ac i ni nawr ar fin cychwyn cyflymu'r broses o gysylltu surgeries ar draws Cymru, fel bod ni wedi cyrraedd bob un ohonyn nhw erbyn diwedd mis Mawrth. Felly mae yna tipyn bach o garlam yn mynd I fod rhwng nawr a'r Nadolig. A wedyn yn olaf, os allwn ni fynd i'r sleid olaf, mae'r adnodd data cenedlaethol, National Data Resource, mae hwn yn mynd I fod yn drawsnewidiol ar draws yn system. Y llynedd, just cyn Nadolig llynedd, wnaethon ni rhoi contract sylweddol iawn yn ei le gyda Google Cloud fel ein prif partner. A mae hynna wedyn wedi arwain at gwblhau y gwaith datblygu a cynllunio ar y platfform data cenedlaethol yn ystod dechrau'r flwyddyn galendar, felly diwedd y flwyddyn ariannol. O ganlyniadau hynny, rydyn ni eleni yn y misoedd diwetha wedi gallu bod ymlaen gyda sicrhau y platfform o ran seibr ddiogelwch, o ran resilience ac o ran yr holl beth eraill sydd mor bwysig I platfform cenedlaethol. A mae'r platfform wedi mynd yn fyw ddechrau mis Awst yn genedlaethol, a wedyn ni wedi galluogi y bob sefydliad iechyd, bob sefydliad NHS yng Nghymru I gael mynediad i'w ardal nhw o'r platfform cenedlaethol rhai wythnosau yn ôl dechrau mis Medi. Mae'r adnodd data cenedlaethol yn mynd I fod yn drawsnewidiol fel ein platfform data ar gyfer y dyfodol yn dal yr holl ddata yn y pen draw sydd gyda ni, fel bod ein systemau ni gyd yn defnyddio y technoleg diweddaraf yn cynnwys pethau fel deallusrwydd artiffisial a darparu gwell gwybodaeth o ran cynllunio a gwasanaethau a darparu gwasanaethau iechyd a gofal, felly mae'n mynd I fod yn rhan bwysig. Felly mae 3 rhaglen hynna, mae yna gyflawniad sylweddol wedi bod, ond dim ond oherwydd y gwaith o wneud y llynedd, a gobeithio bod hynna wedi bod o ddiddordeb I chi, a mi wna I basio nôl i'r cadeirydd Simon am y cwestiynau. Diolch.
Diolch Ifan, and thanks everyone for the presentation on the work of 22-23, and as you can see a huge amount going on, and to be frank, the presentations just scratch the tip of the iceberg of the work that the organisation does. We move into the question and answer session, and I've had a couple of questions in advance of the AGM and a couple have come in during the AGM. So if I pick up on those that came in before first. The first one, Ivan, I think is probably for you, and you did touch on this and probably answered at least half of the question already in terms of when the NHS app, NHS Wales app will be fully rolled out. And perhaps something you didn't touch on quite so much is what it will mean for those people who use it, who've downloaded it. So perhaps you could pick that one up, Ivan.
Yes, thank you, Simon. I think the honest answer is it's never fully rolled out because there's a significant digital inclusion in Wales. The app is not going to be used by 100% of the population in Wales. So for the foreseeable, we'll be seeking to promote the app and make it usable by as many people as we possibly can. But the job will never be completed. What I think we will see over the next few months is a very significant acceleration, and that is because to access all the existing functionality in the app, you need your GP surgery to be connected, and that needs to come first, along with user adoption. If you have downloaded the app, you can register for an alert when your surgery connects, and I have done that. But we will see a ramping up of the GP connectivity, and then that will drive user uptake over the next 6 months. And the initial functionality or features within the app, they're broadly aligned, well, they are very much aligned actually, to the functionality which is in the NHS England app. There will be appointments. You can see your appointments, you can order repeat prescriptions. You'll be able to see elements of your summary medical record. Next year will be a year of expanding features. Once we have that user base, we will then broaden the features, bring in additional functionality into the app that will drive further adoption. So we're on an accelerated curve. It's always been the plan to take an iterative approach. This is modern digital. You start with a minimum viable product and then you build out from there, checking as you go, working very closely with users, which is exactly what we've done on the NHS Wales app. It's around 2 years ago that the program first started, so we've made very rapid progress, I think. But the job will never be done. I think that's my main point. There's so much that an app can offer, and we're going to be building out features and broadening adoption for a long time.
Thank you, Ivan. Moving on to the second question, which I think is very much in your area, Claire. And the question is, will the financial challenges, and indeed they are great, impact on how quickly digital transformation can be rolled out in NHS Wales?
In short, the answer is yes. Inevitably, if we're reprofiling digital to match the funding available, then inevitably that's going to lead to some delays in digital rollouts. I think it's true to say at DHCW, our process to address and support the NHS Wales challenge is to look at areas where that is minimised. So we really try to support the core deliverables and the key digital priorities. But inevitably, if there's a constraint in funding, then we have to make some difficult choices, and they do impact on the profile of digital programmes.
Helen, I just wondered if there's anything you sort of taking an overview, a sort of a high level view of what the current financial challenges could mean, whether there's anything you'd like to add to what Claire's just said.
Yeah, thank you, Simon. And I agree with what Claire said. Inevitably, it's going to have an impact. So I think it's going to come down to the choices we need to make as a system, actually, to really prioritise the investment that is available to really go at those highest value areas that we need to support, and the highest risks, actually, which is very much kind of the approach that we've been taking as an organisation, as you'll know. So I think it will, but I think that there is, it's incumbent on us as the National Digital Organisation to support the system in being able to articulate what the value and benefit of investment in digital is, and actually how do we support through the investment that is available, or the current budgets that are available, actually, to make sure that they're targeted in the right way to really deliver that value that we know digital and the use of data is able to bring. So yeah, it's going to be a tough couple of years, isn't it, in terms of the financial context?
It is absolutely. Okay, we've had a couple of questions come in, great questions come in during the meeting. The first one, I think, Sarah Jane, come to you first, and Helen, you might want to follow up. And I know this is something that the board is absolutely on top of, and in terms of its importance, is how can the board measure how values and behaviours are embedded across the organisation? Sarah Jane, and some of this you touched on in your presentation, but which may well have generated the question. Perhaps you'd like to address a question a bit more specifically.
Yeah, I think it's twofold, really. So firstly, to provide information that we do look at a variety of information strands. So we will look at exit interviews, we will look at turnover analysis, we'll look at hotspot areas. We will work with feedback from staff and managers, the local partnership forum and members of the EDI network, the Equality, Diversity and Inclusion Network, Health and Wellbeing Group, and across a number of different forums that we can get information through the data, through people, to look at if we've got any particular issues in any particular teams. And actually, in terms of embedding that, we've done a number of different things with the leadership cohorts. We've had all the 8 season above management teams coming to 2 large events, leadership events, another one on the 8th of November. Actually, the values and behaviours are embedded, and we've done a number of different things, and that's across the whole executive group, to talk through, to understand, to improve, and to make sure that people completely understand what the values and behaviours are, what it means to be a corporate leader and an employee within DHCW, and these things are called out if they are not appropriate. If we've had any areas that have been a little bit of a worry, then we do some intervention action. We work with the senior director or the senior team member to say, we've got a bit of a problem, we've got a bit of a spike here, and is it something that we need to be mindful of and supportive of, and how do we get underneath that? I think in terms of providing assurance to the board, I think that the assurance is there in a variety of different mechanisms, really, and the staff surveys in particular and the pulse surveys are really good levers to understand where we've got some pinch points or where we've got some good practice, and again that's reported up to the board. I think we would only report a specific concern at a very high level to the board in exception terms. I think the rest of things will go through the business as usual, because it is part of our modus operandi, how we work and how we work together, and embedding that within everything that we do. So I think that's probably the assurance that I can provide, and I haven't got any particular hotspots at the moment, other than the fact that we're just going through the staff survey analysis at the moment, and if there is anything that comes out of that in each directorate, it will show, and then we will work through some supportive work streams with individuals and managers to say, how can we put some improvements and support in place? But I don't think I'm massively any particular concerns that are on my radar. So just to provide that assurance. Thank you.
Thank you, SJ. Helen, anything you wanted to add?
Yeah, just and you know, I absolutely wholeheartedly agree with Sarah Jane and her team do a lot of work in this area. This is, and it's notoriously difficult, isn't it, to quantify and measure kind of values and behaviours, because it's about who we are as individuals, bringing our authentic selves to work and living and breathing and role modelling the values. I think the staff survey does give us kind of a good insight to what it feels like to work at HW and how we kind of embrace the values. I hear people say it. So when we're in the office, I hear people say, you know, oh, well, you know, is it, and I've heard people call out, you know, that actually that's not true to our values. So, and I think that's great that we see that. So I think it's, you know, the bit for us is how we all role model those values and behaviours and make sure that it's how we are and how we do business. But there is some work I think that we can do to think about what the specific measures could be. And I think, you know, our workforce stats give us a bit of an insight. So that, you know, we've got low turnover, we've got high staff satisfaction, we've got low sickness rates. It's those kind of things really. And actually we've got good progression through our organisation, and you know that it's clear to our staff that there are opportunities in the organisation, but there's always more that we need to do. So this is something that is absolutely central at the heart of how we do our business. So we will constantly be monitoring this, as SJ says.
Yeah, and I'm just recalling SJ to give some assurance to the question in terms of what the board's role. One of the first things the board asked you to do, wasn't it, was to have a good look at where we stood in ensuring that bullying wasn't no part of our culture, and the processes that were in place to deal with it and to deal with it quickly, and to ensure that we had a supportive environment. So it's certainly something that the board are very keen on seeking assurances in this area. The second question I've had in, I'm afraid Sarah Jane, is going to be you again to start with, but Ivan as the the board champion on Welsh language, and Chris as the executive lead might want to come in after yourself, Sarah Jane. The question is, staff numbers have increased greatly over the last year. How has DHCW developed its recruitment plan to meet its objective of becoming a fully bilingual organisation?
Okay, I can answer that. So I think it's 83% of everything that goes out now is in Welsh and English, in terms of encouraging people to come and join the organisation. And one of the things that we've done in the last couple of months actually is having a look at how many Welsh speakers have we had. In fact, I've had an informal catch up with Marilyn on the very subject, and talking about how we can increase Welsh speakers in the organisation. And obviously my team have been going to the local schools and colleges as well, which are Welsh speaking, which has been brilliant. But one of the things that I think that we can do in the immediate effect, which is happening at the moment as we speak, is to look at how many people we've got, where are they across the organisation, and also thinking about, and I've had this conversation in my own team actually, is if we haven't got a couple of people, we shouldn't have any single points of failure. We should maybe just look at somebody that is a Welsh speaker, or at least has a very high criteria of Welsh language understanding, not just the entry level. So there is some work in progress at the moment in that space, really, to celebrate and support that and to drive it forward. I think it has improved in the last year. I have got some stats actually, but in essence, I think that will come through the end of the year stats for this year, rather than at this point for the AGM, which is focused on the last year. But there's some good inroads being made, and I hope to provide a quite a positive picture with all the efforts that have been invested in this space at the end of the year report for 23-24.
Thank you, Sarah Jane. Ivan or Chris, did you want to add something? Ivan looks like he does.
Yeah, I would like to come in. Thanks. Well, I could talk for ages on this, but I know we're short of time. So I think it's important that we are recruiting for Welsh language skills, and we do. You know, we assess each role for desirable or essential Welsh language skills. Those are assessed at interview. We promote our job opportunities to the right markets and various other things. But Welsh is not a protected characteristic. Welsh speakers are not made. It's a skill. You can learn it, and you can enhance it, and you can develop it. So we're looking not just at the how do we buy skills, but how do we build those skills and the confidence to use the skills that people already have within our own organization? And we're doing that in a variety of different ways. Some of it, as SJ was describing, was about understanding the distribution of where do we have skills across our organization. Next week, I think, is Welsh Week. Carwyn and I are both running 10 talks in Welsh next week. We're creating opportunities for people to speak and to use Welsh in a business context. And for some people, it's been quite some time since they've done that. So we're doing quite a few other things, and my emphasis is always on the utility and the added value of Welsh. And then the last thing I would add is that being a fully bilingual organization doesn't mean everybody in the organization being able to speak Welsh as well as they speak English, or speaking half and half all the time so that we're bilingual. And there are some areas, I've mentioned the NHS Wales app earlier, which is exemplary as a software product in terms of the way that it uses Welsh, but nobody in the senior team speaks Welsh as their first language or with fluency. The designers don't, the software coders and developers don't, the program director doesn't. That doesn't matter. You can still generate really, really good bilingual products, and you can still promote the Welsh language and demonstrate that it's really important to the organization without yourself needing to speak Welsh. It's an attitude and a frame of mind. And I'm really proud of where we are as an organization, the prominence of Welsh in our public meetings, how much it's used across the organization, and how it's increasingly being used in our products, especially our newer our newer products, I think is great. So I think it's all going in the right direction.
Diolch yn fawr, Ifan. Okay, the timing has worked really well. And there are no further questions that have been raised either prior or during the meeting. So I'd like to bring the AGM to a close. I'd like to thank all those people who've been involved in delivering and presenting to us at this second annual general meeting of Digital Health and Care Wales, but most importantly, all the people behind them that have done the work that has been presented today, the magnificent things that we've seen today, and those things indeed that we haven't had time to reflect on and touch on today. We've seen a huge transformation in the way that we use digital to support Health and Care Wales, and we make huge steps on a yearly basis, as has been seen with things like, as Ivan's just been talking about, the app and the speed at which that is being developed and will be rolled out. And the most important characteristic of that transformation is that we've always endeavoured to put the individual at the heart of everything we have done. And I very much hope, and I know my fellow board members very much hope, that we'll continue to do that. So diolch yn fawr for all of the work by everyone throughout Digital Health and Care Wales. And I think it's also really appropriate for me to thank my board members for all your work through the year, all your dedication through the year, and for making my life not too difficult most of the time. So thank you very much for your work as board members, and I'll draw the AGM to a close. Thank you all very much. Diolch yn fawr.